Oh my, we are back for
Back
episode
again.
5.
Five. Lakers in
Wow.
five. Yes,
Lakers
indeed.
at 5. And this is our technically third month
Yes.
recording.
And I just want to say I can't thank you all enough for those that have tuned in. Even if you haven't liked or subscribed, which we want you to, but just the visibility that you guys have provided, all of the personnel that has came up and said, hey, we really enjoyed the last episode. We want to hear that feedback. We want to keep this train moving full speed ahead, and we want to put out content that is for everyone, not just for a particular class, race, or creed, but something that everyone can enjoy. So, episode 5, let's jump into it.
Yeah, this is A to Z with
Mario,
and Aimee. Nothing's off
off
limits.
limits. Indeed, is not. Indeed, is not.
So, honey, I think you should introduce topic number 5.
What's topic number 5?
You came up with it.
So, topic number 5 is marriage and careers. How do you maintain that work life balance? That is our topic for today. And of course, we are married. We are going on 4 years of marriage. I'm super excited about that. But we also have very different and unique careers. So, without giving too much tea, whatever they do, tea, yeah, that right there. Without giving too much of that, just a brief, short synopsis of what you do for a living, and then I can, in contrast, say what I do.
Yeah. So I work your typical 40-hour a week job, one of them, 5 days a week, your typical desk job. And so there's nothing really exciting about that. Literally 5 days a week. I'm in the office 8 to 4:30 p.m.
Okay.
In the store. There's just nothing spectacular about working a
expected
9 to
more,
5.
but get it, but get it. So for me, I am in corporate America and have a typical 40 to 50 hour work week. But in addition to that, I also coach part time in the fitness world. I also do personal training in the fitness world as well, and then I also volunteer with a local CASA in Rutherford. Serve on a few boards, including March for Babies. And I just want to stop right here, if you're okay with that. I want to stop right here and just really acknowledge the March for Babies, aka March for Dimes, and just thank them for a phenomenal event that was put on yesterday. So if you follow me or my wife, you will see us both on stage holding the card that represents honor, in the midst of supporting the Patron family, who also came very close to suffering infant mortality. Luckily, they didn't. Unfortunately, we did, but we hold no ill will, no grudges. We are just super excited that this March for Dimes organizations, which I'm proud to serve on the board on, took a moment to just honor not just me. They honored my wife as well, because she truly is the warrior between us two. And most importantly, she doesn't take any credit. They honored Ace and Rose. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, feel free to look up my socials, her socials, at 615 Super Mario.
At Freely Aimee.
And you can get more background on that. But back to the topic at hand. So I have probably a 60 to 70 hour, maybe 75-hour work week, compared to my wife that has right now 40. But it's going to be some more hours added on soon.
I'm like, you did add in your extracurriculars. I thought we were just sticking to strictly like the things that draw an income. But if we do want to add on things that take additional time, we both are in Divine Nine organizations. If you know, you know. And so that does also add more hours to our weeks, depending on what is required or necessary.
I mean, it was slick how you like came in with that one, but everything I named, I get paid for though.
Not March for Dimes.
I do get a stipend for March for Dimes.
Oh, well, excuse me.
Hey, let's not do that now.
Let me add that to my ledger of money that I can take advantage of.
An overdraft on one of the two.
Oh, God.
But the overall topic of today is really tailored towards how do we manage, if someone can say that we manage, a work-life balance where we're able to fulfill so many outside obligations, but yet and still come home and not be miserable, come home and spend intentional time. And again, this is not something that we are pros at, but I'll let you lead it off with what are some of the things in which you feel like you do to ensure that the proper work-life balance is maintained.
I work according to a schedule, a calendar, a planner,
Period.
written and electronic.
Verbal.
I mean, I have to have things planned out. And with that plan is also planning for the unexpected, leaving room for that if things do come about. And so when it comes to work and other obligations that take me away from home, I really try to plan that as far out in advance, because then it helps me determine where my free time is, especially when we're spending quality time together. Our schedules are polar opposite. So there
Not
are
too much.
times
Not too much.
they are polar opposite. There are times when I'm free and you're busy, or vice versa.
I'm always free for you. Cue the
Oh,
music. Aww.
cute.
I know what the kids do. Hard.
Presh. But
Okay.
we have polar opposite schedules, or we have polar opposite demands.
I like
So
how you said that.
it allows me to be able to kind of see at a glance where I do have pockets or moments of time, and see if they overlap with your free pockets of time. So that's what I do.
I love that. And I will give you the utmost credit for that. One thing my wife did bring into my life is that I say yes to everything. Anything that's asked of me, I say yes to. One of her classic things of saying is, Mario, like, you're doing too much, or you literally are trying to get 25 hours out of a 24-hour day. It's impossible. And what she brought into my life, and I'm so forever grateful for, is Aimee truly keeps up with my calendar. Like, I never asked for Aimee to do that. I never told her she had to. It's not a duty. It's not an obligation. She took it upon herself. And I want to say, guys, it's probably because I was missing too many dates and timelines, that she created a joint family calendar where I can share with her just in the midst of a conversation. I have this appointment coming up in 2 months. Next thing I know, I'll get an invite to the calendar where she has actually put it on there. So I definitely agree with you that, unlike myself, you are the planner of our relationship, but I also have to remain open to some of the harder conversations that you have where it's like, Mario, you can't squeeze 25 hours out of 24 hours. No, you can't go and be at this place because you already committed to this obligation. And it's always a tug of war because I'm never one to say no. Anybody that knows me knows that I always want to show up for friends, family, acquaintances, events, anything that I sign my name on. So I will give you credit. That is one thing that you do phenomenally well. So when I say, fellas, if you are not a planner, please lean in on your wife, and your wife will show you things that you have not seen. I'm talking this woman to my left, your right. She got it down to color codes, where if I see red, I know it's immediate. I bet not miss when I'm sleeping on the couch. I see green, it's a maybe. But she really is very, very strong in that. And she's exactly right. The other thing I would definitely say is, in addition to keeping a calendar, what's been important is being flexible with that calendar. And I'll let you talk about how, since you keep up with it, you tell me how you're flexible with it. Because I just
Yeah.
follow it.
I mean, we both know that there are things that once they're planned, they're not going to get moved. We both have our own priority list of what's important. Of course, our marriage is always important, but we were individuals before we got married. And so there are passion areas where, like, those things will be a standing, place in our schedules. But also, I think where we've evolved, or where I have evolved because I'm such a planner, is
Not too much. Don't
is
do that.
allowing, like you said, that flexibility to move things. And so, we have to schedule time to do this podcast. We just don't have an empty week where it's like, oh, we're just going to lollygag. Like, we have to sit down, look at our calendars, see when it's going to work. Things do pop up, reorganize it. Everything is not prescribed for us, but if we know we want to go to a particular restaurant, I know that because Mario also has a career in fitness, that he's also juggling, individual clients. He's juggling, several gym schedules. And so we have to be very mindful of, like, oh, there might be time on that day, but can we still prioritize having a date night and move it? It's the date's still happening, but does it have to happen on this day just because there's 2 hours available? Like, we might want to just be home, be snuggled up on each other, sitting on two opposite ends of the couch.
You know how we snuggle now.
On social media. And so,
Don't do that.
we take additional time to date, to spend time together, and still get things done. And we're not so hell bent on, oh, it has to happen on this date at this time. As long as it happens, I think we're both good with that.
And I believe that's more than fair. It's more than accurate. Also, it's one of those things where I have to be open to getting the feedback. So if my wife is going the extra mile, planning a calendar, she's being flexible with moving things around, I have to also stop at times and say, hey, what you got going on, Mario, in this moment can't supersede what she has going on. She touched on something that was just very great. As you've heard in prior episodes, this podcast was totally Amy's idea. Totally. I am just fortunate to be on the journey with her, and I wanted to support it. I never thought I would have anything to add really in front of the camera. I was more so like, hey, I'll be the executive director behind the camera, giving ideas, etc. But when my wife was like, no, this means a lot to me, and it would even mean more to me having you by my side, things had to shift. Things had to move. It was one of those things where, to your point, I'm maintaining all the gym schedules, the corporate schedules. I'm focused on getting people fit physically, but I didn't want to neglect getting my wife fit mentally and emotionally. That was a bar right there.
It was.
That was a bar, because you really got to peel that back, right? I cannot spend so much of my time giving it to everybody else, whether it's other organizations, other personnel, without taking care of what's feeding me, so to speak. And I just want to be clear, this woman to my left, you're right, she feeds me. She makes sure I'm at the places I need to be at. She makes sure that I eat. She makes sure that my car is charged. She makes sure that I have the appropriate family time. But she's also always been very, very mindful and aware of when I'm neglecting something that is of value. And she knows the value that she brings. So I really believe that it's a constant ebb and flow of balance that has to take place between two individuals. But a little tea here is now my wife, and we'll talk about that in a later episode, but my wife is taking on new demands. So she's taking on new demands that is now giving her a taste of what it's like to walk in my shoes, which
Stressful.
Man.
Stressful.
for
Stressful.
everyone that's tuning in, that's a client, that's a gym or a partner or organization I serve with. Your guys are not a burden. I love doing what I do. I'm just very grateful that my wife, she helps me be able to do that day in and day out. But back to my wife, she's embarking on a new journey where she's getting a chance to walk in my shoes, and we talk countless times as she's went over this journey and continues to go over this journey like, man, this is a lot. Like, how do you do this? And now roles are reversed. What are some of the things that you feel like you've learned from going from someone who would always just be kind of the law woman, so to speak, of like, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you got trying to get 25 hours out of a day, to now you're trying to get 24.5 hours out of it?
My husband is right. I am embarking on a completely different journey than what I've been used to. I have been a one-trick pony, as y'all heard at the beginning of this episode.
Trick one.
Where whatever my terms of employment are, that's what I'm focusing my time on, and everything else is pretty much a free-for-all. But I have been the pot calling the kettle black.
Or the pot calling the kettle black when it's set on a blacktop hot stove.
Right. However he wants to explain it. Where I now need to split my time in two different directions, and it's challenging. I, similar to my husband, believe that anything can happen if you give your time and energy to it, but that is challenging because I do want to squeeze 24 and a half hours out of a 24-hour day, especially when I have a goal and I want to accomplish it and I know that I can get it done. And so what I'm learning is that I still need to plan.
Yes, you do.
But then also by adding more to your plate, it does mean that you're going to have to decrease the portion size for another part of that plate. And if I'm going to give my time to an extra venture, that's going to take away time from something else.
Better not be me.
In what...
Cue the crickets.
In what section of my plate am I willing to shrink to make room for that other thing? And so even last week, like, I walked up to Mario and caught him off guard, but I held his hand and I apologized to him because I felt like the endeavor that I'm embarking on was starting to bleed into areas for me that I'm not used to. And I wanted to apologize to him and be like, hey, I'm sorry that this is happening. It may not be bothersome to you, but like I personally feel that this journey is causing an adjustment for me, and I'm starting to showcase different demeanors than I'm used to, and I want to get ahead of it and apologize because it could cause one, it's taking time away from us right now as I'm trying to navigate, you know, the scheduling piece of it, but it's also it has caused me to be more rigid, which could end up affecting my marriage if I'm not reeling that in and trying to figure out a way to smooth it out to where it's not causing friction between us.
Yeah, and if I may just interrupt you briefly, so I fully acknowledge and appreciate you taking time on a random day and just saying, I want to apologize for being blunt. But one thing that where we reiterated in our last episode, and I think I did primarily, is grace has to be extended on both sides. This thing called life, we don't know all the answers. We don't know what's expected of us. If you're anything like me, every time somebody needs you, you're like, that's the supreme being calling. That's my calling. I gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta go. And sometimes in doing that and having a commitment to something, you can't always and won't always be the most popular one in the room. You won't always be the one that can fulfill obligations that may have been pre-established. So one of the reasons, the main reasons, I was unbothered because I'm like, I'll be honest, and we laugh about this, but I share this with you often. I don't know why you married me. I don't know why you married me. I don't know why you even date me. Like between law school and everything else, like I truly have learned and believe I'm one of the most difficult guys to be with. But where I appreciate you and where I'm grateful for you is that you have shown a commitment to the areas in which I may be lacking or the areas in which I'm so just old fashioned, like objective, and you're like, no, here's where it's at. But by you teaching me and showing me that, I was able to reciprocate that when you came to me and said, I'm sorry for being rigid. I'm like, your rigidity is nowhere near what mine was. And by you taking time to tolerate, adjust, and be flexible with my inflexibility, it allowed me to develop skills to now tolerate in this season on the opposite side. Because this woman here comes in all the time and will tell me, sorry for being late, sorry that I wasn't able to do this, sorry the intimacy wasn't there or what have you, or I could not do it. And I always have to remind her that she often puts more pressure on herself than I do. There are things that old man Johnson over here, I'm just like, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that the code still works to open up the door, you know. But as a married couple and just couples in general, those that even may even be considering marriage, it's very important that you don't lose the sense of yourself, but also you don't rob your spouse of being themselves as well. It's easy to just say, I'm married, but I'm going to keep doing me. But if you're not careful, you could also rob or steal the innocence of your spouse feeling comfortable to be themselves.
Yeah. And also, in that kind of vein of still staying true to yourself in your relationship as it relates to this topic of kind of the career piece of it, we both have had ever evolving career goals. And I remember a time in our relationship where, you know, either one of us will make a decision solely on what worked for us individually. And I think we've evolved to where we have conversations about what we want to do career wise, but there is an extra layer of having a conversation about what that means for the both of us. Like, for instance, you know, if you were to go for a job that required you to travel a whole lot, you know, what does that look like? You know,
You're
when,
not moving. I've tried. You just won't do it.
but, you know, and we'll get into maybe the Ace and Rose conversation as Mario kind of highlighted it earlier, you know, in the episode. If you don't know anything about Ace and Rose, go on our social media to get a preview. But when we were preparing for Ace and Rose, there were certain things career wise that we had to buckle down and be like, look, these are things that are just non-negotiables as we're preparing for twins. now, fast forward, there are a lot of opportunities that we can now take on that is different for the type of time that we have at our disposal. And also, when it comes to moving or not moving and a career, that would be a conversation that we, I think, would have present day, whereas maybe before, early on in a relationship, it's just like, hey, this is what I want to do and it works for me, the money's good.
That was typically my response.
So just wanted to let you know, FYI.
Yeah. So I think in summary, what we want to communicate again to our listeners is when it comes to a work-life balance, we've highlighted just a few things for you to consider. Communication, flexibility, planning, being intentional. But one thing I also would like to add is being committed. I will say this, woman to my left, you're right. No matter how many curveballs that I throw at her with my schedule, and this is me being as brutally honest as possible, I throw a lot. As I asked my wife today as we prepared for this episode, because we don't jot down what we're going to say, literally before the camera, she hit record on this camera. I said, what's the topic again? Not because it wasn't important, but it was just like, I've done so much throughout the day. And I'm like, I want to make sure that I still am committed to this vision. I still am committed to what I signed up for. It's not fair, women, gentlemen, for everybody else to get the best versions of you, but the person you have to come home to, lay in the bed with, wake up with the next morning, bad breath and all. Whew. Cue the crickets.
Continue.
They deserve the best version of you too. So you want to be able to keep all of that in mind, and you want to be engaged, which is why I'm so excited to be a part of this podcast with my lovely wife. And I remain steadfast that we don't write anything down, we don't script anything, we really speak from the heart, because I think with all this stuff I said, I think I carry some brownie points.
I mean, we are having some full circle moments.
Yeah.
Where you're dropping nuggets that I think earlier in our relationship were oil and water moments.
Absolutely.
And so as we continue to get to know each other, as our interests have continued to change, as we continue to support one another and what each other wants for their legacy and their career and their lives, I think we have continue to do a good job at calibrating and doing what's necessary for us to feel fulfilled individually, but also be able to be supportive enough for our spouse to be fulfilled.
No, I love how you did that. Wow. Cue the heart. Man, I don't know if I can follow up on that. I'll say this. You are right that in the beginning, it was very much like oil and water. It just didn't mix. Me coming into a marriage after and for the most part being the primary provider and caregiver for all prior relationships, it was different because I didn't have to calibrate my decisions, because at the end of the day, the only thing that mattered was the bills paid and was we in the positive as it relates to the bank account, right? But then taking on a woman that was already independent and her taking on a man that was already independent, where I didn't need you for nothing. You didn't need me for nothing. We was like lock and step. We both were very successful in careers, and this was a true beautiful creation and union, to where we both had to learn, how do we still reserve being independent, but at the same point being flexible enough to allow someone else's strengths to strengthen our areas of improvement. How do you do that? And it really took communication, planning, flexibility, honesty, and also it took somebody taking the lead while somebody else took a step back. And in this situation, I was glad to let you take the lead. You never asked for it. You never demanded it. We never debated about it. You just took the initiative, created a calendar, and invited me to it, and have kept up with it literally for the past 3 years. If I mention anything, you will always do it and never complain, never be burdened with it. But at the same point, if you ever need me to show up for anything, podcast, your next big journey, which I'll let her talk about in a future episodes, she knows I'm always going to be there. So what we want to say in closing is the work-life balance can happen. You don't have to lose yourself while being married. Instead, you can recreate yourself while being married.
Yeah. But we are wrapping this up. I can't wait to share with you all what this next journey is for me and how I got to the finish line. I'm just not one to speak on things until they're signed, still delivered.
Oh, it's delivered.
I mean, it will
We
be
pay
delivered.
for it. It's
We
delivered.
pay for it.
Yeah.
It will be delivered, but I'm more of a let's wait till the chickens hatch, not while they're sitting here baking.
I thought it's the hens. The hens.
Hens
hatch.
come to roost. One of them. And when it's done, we'll speak on it.
Well, we're signing out. This is A to Z with Mario
And Aimee,
Nothing's off limits. See you next time, guys.